So, does your gear score really matter? Now, this is something that's kind of a tricky question to answer in a sense. I would say gear score does matter when it comes to mission requirements, when it comes to some of the attributes that these new or higher gear scores can pack. They can pack some more armor, they can pack some higher numbers. But other than those two things, I don't necessarily see much of a rush to get a high gear score item because a lot of people will rush for getting a big gear score and then their builds are crap. They can't hold any damage. They can't fire. They are just shooting marshmallows because they look more at gear score than looking at the talents and the stats on their builds. And so when you're farming, yes, you need high gear score items to make it into the invaded missions, to make it into the strongholds. And so as you're walking through the world tiers, for those of you who have not reached world tier 5, which there are a lot of people, by the way, I would say look more at the stats, look at the talents, look at the brand sets that you have. And those are the things that make more of a difference for your build. Look at your weapons, look at your weapon talents. If you get a weapon that actually matches your build and has everything, maybe a different assault rifle, then sure. Because when it comes down to it, when it's time for you to maybe transfer talents or transfer stats, you can roll in the recalibration station items of different gear score, different levels, and take those attributes and actually put on a new item. You know, it doesn't really stop you if they're compatible items for you to roll or recalibrate an item. So take that into account. And when you're looking at the gear score debacle that's going on, and I know there are a lot of videos out there speaking about how to get to gear score 500 the fastest, but take your time and farm. I mean, especially for those who don't have a lot of time, who've not reached gear score, who are looking as, gear score 500 is a big deal. Or people who are new to the game, a lot of those videos may not necessarily tell you the entire story in order for you to understand that, well, yeah, as your gear score is increasing, you better make sure that your build is also improving as well. Not just, because you may run a gear score 450 item that you may not be able to find the same kind of it for a long, long time. And so it will drop your average gear score, but that shouldn't be the measure of how good your build is. And also, one big important side is weapons. Weapons actually break this rule, and gear score does really show that it matters in the side of weapons, because I've noticed that there's a huge base damage increase once you get a higher gear score item, like a higher gear score weapon. Like I have some vectors that I've been trying to get a good vector into my build, and I was able to get one last night, and just a flat 1000 base damage increase on on these weapons from the one that was a lower gear score. So yes, gear score does matter. Yes, make sure you pay attention to your gear score, but very negligibly, honestly. What you should be paying attention to much more are your stats, your talents, your brand sets, and your play style. A lot of people run into these missions. I've seen people with 500 gear score and all that stuff, and it's not like, they don't really know how to play, but I don't think they're working their build to fine tune it. They're going with this high gear score number, which is a misrepresentation of how good your build is. And I think the developers have made it where there's not too much of a difference or a gap in high gear score items with the low gear score items, so that what happened in the Division 1 doesn't repeat itself again. I remember Falcon Lost. I remember then the gear score to do Falcon Lost was like 173 or 165. It was the hundreds to start in, like the first, before they added wall tiers, by the way. This is way back then. And a lot of people will kick people out of the groups when they saw that their gear scores were low. And so gear scores did make a big difference then. It wasn't like they were kicking them out because, it was not a legitimate concern. Back then, if your gear score was trash, most likely your build could not hold enough damage or hold enough damage dealing attributes, and so you will be melted and be the weak link in that incursion. So people didn't want that, and I think the developers didn't want that as well. So that's why you can matchmake with someone who's got a 450 455 gear score, and he'll be running with people with 500 gear score, and there won't have to be any group augmentation going on, because those stats are equally, in some cases, or maybe even if the person built very well, far superior than the person who has a higher gear score. And so that's what I think the developers are trying to do. They're trying to bring everybody along, because as crazy as it may sound, it is the casual players that pay the bills. Sorry, hardcore players like us in a sense, or even more hardcore, who drop 40, 50 hours in this game a week. You're not the majority of the players. It's the players who, go out there, grind, and come back in the evening, and this is their entertainment. Many of them are fathers like myself. Many of them, have full-time jobs, and they work and they grind it out, and they're able to buy these games on a dime, at a whim. A lot of college kids don't have a bunch of money sitting around like people who are working. Once they start working, then they're going to be able to get money, and they're going to be buying these games and playing, but they're not going to have as much time as well to grind. And so I think the developers are trying to balance that aspect of making your gear still relevant, and at the same time making you have something to grind for. I don't know if there's going to be another world tier, because right now we are literally a month into the game, and the full end game is out. So I think if there's not going to be a world tier, then there's going to be content being revealed, maybe secret missions being added, and a lot of things that we can keep doing as the game is going along. So to answer the question, does gear score matter? Yes, and not really. I guess that's my answer. So leave in the comment section your thoughts about the gear score question. There are all these videos around saying how to get the gear score 500 real fast, blah, 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 blah. But, we need to quickly rein that in and say, okay, it's nice to get to a higher gear score, but at the same time, make sure you're looking at your build and looking at your attributes and ensuring that these are the things that matter to you most, your play style and all that good stuff. Anyways, that's all I got. Thank you guys for your time and audience. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for watching these videos. Oh my goodness, look at these videos. You guys are just killing it. And thank you for the feedback as well. It's helping me to bring out the best possible content that I can, as just a working class regular gamer who enjoys the game and enjoys the community as well. And so that's it. I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace.